ever watched a sequel and thought, wow, they actually fixed it? The first Zootopia was a massive hit, but it had big problems, like that weak twist villain, amongst other things. Now, Zootopia 2 is here and it's a total game changer. But what did Zootopia 2 finally get right, and what did it get wrong? One of the very first things that makes Z2 better than Z1 is the kind of villain it has. In the first movie, we had a twist villain, Assistant Mayor Bellwether. Now, Bellwether was a sweet-looking sheep who spent the whole movie helping Judy Hopps. She gave Judy access to the city's cameras and acted like her biggest fan.
Just call me if you ever need anything, okay?
But then, in the very last few minutes, the movie basically says, "Gotcha!" and reveals she was the one turning predators savage. The problem with this action is that it feels like a cheap trick. For one, Bellwether barely has any screen time to matter truly. Secondly, for almost the entire movie, she isn't doing anything evil that we can see. She's just a busy and overlooked assistant. So when she finally pulls out the dart gun at the Natural History Museum and shoots Nick, it just feels confusing, because we didn't spend the movie learning to fear her. Now look at how Zootopia 2 sets up its villains, starting from the very first misdirection. The marketing and early scenes want you to think the snake is the villain. The poster shows a snake wrapped around Judy and Nick. And then early in the movie, Judy spots something slithering away during the dock chase. She soon finds shed scales, and at the gala, a hooded snake-like figure steals Ebenezer Linksley's journal. And when the snake kidnaps Milton Linksley, everything about the setup screams bad guy.
Please, you don't have to hurt him.
He runs, steals, and even bites Chief Bogo by accident. From Judy's point of view and ours, the snake looks absolutely guilty. But here's the key difference. The movie does not drag that lie all the way to the end. Very quickly, Gary tells Judy why he took the journal. He says Milton is the real problem and explains that reptiles were pushed out of Zootopia.
And this journal holds the secret that will prove it.
Then, the movie does something Zootopia 1 never did. It names the real villains early. In Z2, we meet the Linksley family, and boy are they mean. We don't have to guess if they are bad guys. We see it in their actions. Milton Linksley is a rich and powerful cat who doesn't care about anyone else. While the first movie's villain was hiding behind a desk, the Linksleys are out there causing real damage. For example, look at what happens at the gala. As soon as a scuffle breaks out and Chief Bogo gets hurt, Milton doesn't try to help or find the truth. Instead, he and his children immediately tell Nick and Judy to kill the snake and keep everything quiet. When that doesn't work, they use their power to lie to the whole city, through the mayor, making everyone think Nick and Judy are the criminals. That is a much better way to make a villain because we get to see them being bullies throughout the whole story. You can actually feel the pressure they're putting on our favorite fox and bunny.
I want the fox and the rabbit.
But this is where Z2 actually took its villain to the next level, and at the same time reminded us of the golden age of Disney. You see, this movie also has a twist villain, and his name is Pobert Linksley. He is the youngest of the evil family. However, he's overlooked and even ridiculed by them because of his timidity. At the gala, he is polite, eager, and clearly desperate to be seen. Judy befriends him quickly, and he responds with warmth that feels a little too perfect. He also helps Gary escape, shows up at the right moments, and acts like an ally when Judy needs one most. And that is where the tension lives. But at every step, the movie gives you two possible paths. Pobert might turn against his family because he wants to create his own story, or he might turn against Judy to earn his family's respect. Both outcomes fit what we know about him. The story does not hide this choice because it quietly sits in the background of every scene he shares with the heroes. And that was another thing. Screen time. Dude was everywhere in the movie. That is real foreshadowing. So when he finally betrays Judy, it feels like the answer to a question the movie has been asking the whole time. That is why his twist works. Basically, Disney proved to us with Z2 that they still got what it takes. And the crazy thing is that they didn't just do this with the villains. In fact, this next thing about Zootopia's sequel confirmed that there's hope for Disney after all. Have you ever noticed how some sequels feel like they've completely forgotten where they came from? It's like the writers just threw away the first movie and started a brand new one that doesn't quite fit. But Zootopia 2 actually did something really smart that every sequel should learn from. In the first movie, we spent a lot of time looking at how the city was built right now. We saw the big ice walls in Tundra Town and the giant sprinklers in the Rainforest District. It was like going on a field trip to a cool new place and seeing all the shiny buildings. But even though the city looked amazing, we didn't really know its origins. So what does Zootopia 2 do? It changed that by making the history of the city the most important part of the story. It turned Zootopia from a cool place to look at into a place with a deep, messy, and super interesting story. One way the movie does this is through Gary DeSnake and his great-grandmother Agnes. In the first movie, we were told that Zootopia was a place where anyone could be anything, but we never really saw who helped start it all. Z2 shows us that the city wasn't just built by mammals, because Gary's family was actually some of the original founders.
My family will finally be able to come home.
The movie uses a special metal journal that Gary steals from the gala as a key to unlock this secret, because the journal has a metal cover that only reptiles can see properly. It makes their history feel like a hidden treasure that's been right under everyone's noses. So by tying Gary's personal mission to find his family to the actual history of the city, the movie makes the world feel much older and more real. This is a huge step up because it means the sequel is explaining why the city is the way it is today. Think about the Marsh Market, for example. In the first movie, everything looked perfect and high-tech, but in Zootopia 2, we see this sunken, swampy area where the water folk live. It's a place that's struggling because the people in charge, the Lynxleys, are trying to gentrify it. When Nick and Judy go there with Nibbles' maple stick, we see a totally different side of Zootopia. And wow, Nibbles is just another gem of Z2. The movie's decision to use an assortment of characters with significant screen time was also another way it elevated the world of Zootopia. Nibbles is this funny beaver who runs a podcast and talks about conspiracies. In the first movie, we mostly only saw the police or criminals. But Nibbles shows us that there are regular citizens in Zootopia who care about things like history, secrets, and some other weird stuff.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub. Hey.
Hey, bub. Hey.
Bub, bub, bub,
Bub, bub, bub, bub, bub.
Hey, bub.
Even the funny moments in the sequel help build the world. There was this juggling sea lion who got angry at Nick in a hilarious way. There were also the German-accented goats who helped them find the mountain lounge. These characters might seem small, but they show that every corner of Zootopia has its own culture and its own people. By the end of the movie, the world of Zootopia is completely different, but it still feels like the same place. When the true story of the city's founding is spread all over the news, it changes the future of the city. The reptiles are allowed to come back, and the Marsh Market is saved. The movie didn't need to go to a new planet or a different country to make the story feel big. It just had to look under the city we already knew. That is the secret to a great sequel. You don't replace what people love, you just show them that there was a lot more to love than they realized. It gives the heroes a chance to grow too. Judy goes from wanting to be a perfect cop to someone who wants to make sure everyone's history is respected. Unfortunately though, Disney also showed us glimpses of why they have been flopping in recent years. But before we get to that, you need to see one more important thing they got absolutely right. Even though it was a huge hit, the first Zootopia actually failed in one major way. It tried to use the way predators and prey act to teach us about how humans treat each other. But there's a giant problem with that idea. You see, in the world of Zootopia, predators actually have a history of eating prey. So if a tiny bunny is nervous around a big lion with sharp teeth, it's actually a pretty smart way for a bunny to stay alive. Unfortunately, the movie tried to say that being afraid of someone because of how they were born is wrong, after giving the characters a biological reason to be nervous. This is really messy when you try to compare it to our real world. In real life, there is no biological reason for humans to fear each other or think some people are naturally more dangerous. So, because the first movie used biology as its main point, it accidentally gave prejudiced people a way to say, "See, being scared of others is just a natural instinct." It basically validated the very biases it was trying to fight. Have you ever tried to explain something to a friend, but the example you used was so confusing that they ended up believing the wrong thing? That is the biggest reason why Zootopia 2 is such a massive upgrade. It stopped talking about confusing things like instincts and biology and started talking about things we can actually see and touch in our own neighborhoods. It moved the fight from people's feelings into the systems of the city, like who gets to own land, who gets the best resources, and who gets erased when the city wants to grow. The sequel shows us that discrimination can also be about people in power making rules that hurt others. We see the Linksley family trying to literally pave over the Marsh Market, where the waterfolk live. They are trying to steal their homes to build fancy new buildings. This gives the movie a much clearer chain of cause and effect. The Linksleys want money and power, so they take away the reptiles' land. It's as simple as that. This change makes the whole history of the city feel much more important. The movie also shows us how this system works through the characters of Chief Bogo and the ZPD. In the first movie, Bogo was just a grumpy boss, but in Zootopia 2, we see how the villains use the police to do their dirty work. Milton Linksley uses the mayor, Brian Windancer, to brand Nick and Judy as criminals just because they were getting too close to the truth. This shows that the system itself can be used as a weapon to protect the rich and powerful, just as in the real human world. When Captain Hogbottom is ordered to shoot Judy with a lethal dart, she almost does it because she thinks she's following orders. This is a much scarier and more realistic theme than a predator in a cage. It shows that the real danger in a city is a powerful person's pen and the rules they write. By focusing on things like land, history, and access to resources, Zootopia 2 made its theme much more tangible. We see the Marsh Market struggling while the Linksleys throw giant, expensive galas. We see Gary wanting to find his family's patent while the city tries to pretend the Disnakes never existed. This upgrade means the sequel is a story about justice and making things right for the people who were left behind. It's about realizing that progress shouldn't come at the price of someone else's home. The first movie asked us to try everything, but the second movie asks us to fix what's broken. If you were a cop in Zootopia, would you follow the orders of a powerful family, or would you risk everything to tell a truth that had been hidden for 100 years? That is the question that makes this sequel feel so much more grown up and impactful. But we mentioned earlier that the sequel also flopped in some ways, so let's get to it. Zootopia 2 is not a perfect movie, and pretending it is would miss the point of this whole video. One of the biggest problems starts with Judy and Nick themselves. At the end of Zootopia 1, they save the city, expose the truth, and change how Zootopia sees itself. That's a huge win. So when Zootopia 2 opens and treats them like small-time cops again, something feels off. They are still outsiders, still doubted, and still told to stay in their lane by the ZPD. On paper, that sounds fine, but in practice, it weakens the story because growth should matter. When characters win big, the world should react. Zootopia 2 keeps them stuck in the same place emotionally and socially, and that felt frustrating to watch. Unfortunately, that wasn't all. Once again, Judy and Nick are chasing clues, running from powerful people, and fighting the same kinds of obstacles. It's familiar in a way that feels a little too safe. You can almost see the path before they walk it. The movie wants comfort, not risk, and that holds it back from greatness. The tone also gets messy. Some people may find the lines about threesomes and foursomes to be ridiculous and awkward. But yeah, there are those who will be fine with the adult jokes, especially parents who enjoy humor that flies over kids' heads. Nevertheless, here's the important part. Even with all these issues, Zootopia 2 still understands something Zootopia 1 struggled with. It knows what it wants to say. The first movie wanted to talk about prejudice, but it picked a setup that caused confusion. The second movie talks about power, space, and who gets pushed out when a city grows. Even when the story repeats itself, even when the jokes miss, that core idea stays clear. You always know what the fight is really about. You can see the damage, and you can point to what was lost. That clarity carries the movie through its weaker moments. So, yes, the sequel has cracks, it plays it safe with its heroes, it fumbles its humor, and it reaches for clever moments that do not land. But it also grows up where it counts. It takes the ideas of the first movie and grounds them in actions and consequences you can see and understand. That's why Zootopia 2 ends up better than Zootopia 1. One more thing we did not even touch on here is how well Zootopia handles its climax. The final stretch does not just throw noise and chaos at you, it pays off every choice, every setup, and every relationship the movie built earlier. So, in case you're wondering how not to waste a climax, we broke that whole ending down scene by scene in another video, about how movies waste their climaxes.